Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Before we start with our today's session, we have an announcement. The much awaited Target Prelims 2021 crash course will go live at 7:30 p.m. from today. We would have SAMARTH sir who would be taking the first session on Indian polity. Now let's get started and look into the first question. Consider the following statements with respect to IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. It is a comprehensive inventory of the global conservation status of animal, fungus and plant species. It defines the extinction risk of species assessed classified into 7 categories. Critically endangered and vulnerable species are considered to be threatened with global extinction. Which of the given statements is or incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is D, which means only the second statement is wrong. So what is this IUCN Red List of Threatened Species? This is a repository. This is a registry. It will be an inventory where it will have the global conservation status of plant and the animal species. And this has a classification which is classified into 9 categories and not into 7 categories. Since there are about 9 categories, the second option will go wrong and the third option once again is right. So the answer to this would be 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of International Union for Conservation of Nature. When we look into the categories, we have extinct, extinct in wild, critically endangered, vulnerable, near threatened, least concern, data deficient as well as not evaluated. Why do we have this classification? In a specific region, in a different country and at the global level as well. There might be species whose numbers might be dropping over a period of time. So giving an awareness to the people, one, in terms of the government, second, in terms of the business community, third, in terms of the civil society, so that people also acknowledge the fact that this earth is not only meant for the human beings but also for the other species, so that they take the mechanisms to increase these species number over a period of time. That is why we have this classification. So basically we have the IUCN Red List, which is used by the institutions, businesses, communities, government, so that they are aware about the threatening possibilities of the species, and over a period of time measures can be taken so that the numbers are compensated. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following are the likely impacts of increase in the atmospheric aerosols? Destruction of stratospheric ozone, affect the rainfall pattern, reduce solar energy generation from photovoltaic and rooftop solar installations. Which of them are the likely causes of this atmospheric aerosols? The answer to this is D, which is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of atmospheric aerosols. So this article basically is giving us an impact of the atmospheric aerosols. What are these atmospheric aerosols? These are nothing but the minute particles. They are the ones who are suspended in the nature. There are two ways of understanding what impact the aerosols can have on the atmosphere. One is what is called as the direct effect. The other is what is called as the indirect effect. What is this direct effect? Basically, the aerosols scatter the sunlight directly into the space. So what do? Since they are the suspended particles, and when the sunlight hits these particles, it directly radiates them back into the space. That is the direct effect. And when it comes to the indirect effect, these aerosols are present in the lower atmosphere, modify the sizes of the cloud particles, change how the clouds reflect, and also absorb some of the sunlight as well. That is what is called as indirect effect. So basically, when we are speaking about the direct effect, there is direct correlation between the aerosols as sunlight is reflected, and in the indirect effect, how it acts on the cloud particles is what needs to be taken into picture. So the bulk of the aerosols that we see in the atmosphere, about 90%, is by the natural process. What are these natural processes? Let's take the example of volcanoes. Whenever there is a volcano, there is ejection of ash into the air. This also releases sulfur dioxide, other gases yielding sulfates as well. This happens to be the direct part, where the bulk of the aerosols, that is about 90%, is by the natural process. There is another 10%. these 10% of the aerosols are released by the anthropogenic or the human-made causes. This will include all the impacts that the human activities have conducted, which is in the urban, the industrial areas, the release of the emissions, so on and so forth. And as a result, we have one, the natural cause, and the other happens to be the human-made cause. So when it comes to the sources of these aerosols, as we have discussed, we have the volcanic eruptions, sea spray, desert storms, coal power plants, ships, so on and so forth. When these are acting in the atmosphere, they can have impact in the atmosphere, and ultimately what are the different impacts? It will lead to destruction of the stratospheric ozone, it will affect the rainfall patterns as well, and at the same time it can also reduce the solar energy generation from the photovoltaic and rooftop solar installation. Why? Because there is reflection that can happen because of the direct consequence. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this practice question. Which of the following statements with respect to SAMARTH scheme is or correct? It intends to provide skill development and placement oriented training across the entire textiles value chain, including spinning and weaving in the organized sector. The scheme is implemented by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Which of the statements are correct with respect to the SAMARTH scheme? The answer to this is neither one nor two. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the SAMARTH scheme. So why is the first option wrong? That is because it does not include, but instead it excludes spinning and weaving in the organized sector. And the second option is wrong. That is because it is not the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, but instead it is the Ministry of Textiles. So what is this SAMARTH scheme? Basically, it intends to provide skill development, placement oriented training across the entire textiles value chain, but excludes the spinning and weaving in the organized sector. When we look into the objectives, it becomes the part of the National Skills Framework qualification. It provides skilling programs to over 10 lakh people, so employment generation happens, and at the same time there is increased activity in the textiles. This can help in the export of the textile products as well. So the scheme aims to create more jobs in the textile, and it also ensures that there is more value chain added into the textile sector. So the traditional sectors of handlooms, handicrafts, sericulture, jute will be upgraded through the skilling and the skill upgradation. The skilling programs offered under the SAMARTH scheme aim to incentivize and supplement the efforts of the textile industry. So the already schemes and programs that are present in the textile industry, added to these schemes, it will also provide incentivization both to the people who are going to the textile sector and also to the industrial bodies as well. It aims to promote sustainable livelihood to all sections of the society. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the given statements with respect to Financial Stability and Developmental Council is or correct? It is a statutory body set up for maintaining financial stability, enhancing inter-regulatory coordination and promoting financial sector development. The council is chaired by Niti Aayog Chairman, RBI Governor and Securities and Exchange Board of India Chairman are among its members. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 3 only. Why is the first statement wrong? That is because it is not a statutory body, but instead it is a body that was created by an executive order when back in the year 2010. So when it comes to a statutory body, it is passed by the process of parliament. Where a bill is created, it is passed through a particular process, but when it comes to the executive order, it is the government of the day which will pass the order. Since the Financial Stability and Developmental Council was created by an executive order and not as a statutory law, the first statement is wrong. The council is chaired by Niti Aayog Chairman. This once again is wrong. Why? Because it is headed by the Union Finance Minister and not the Chairman of Niti Aayog. And when it comes to the third statement, yes, it does have the RBI Governor and the Securities and Exchange Board of India Chairman as part of its members. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of Financial Stability and Developmental Council. Who are its members? Governor of Reserve Bank of India, Finance Secretary or Secretary Department of Economic Affairs, Secretary Department of Financial Services, Chief Economic Advisor, Ministry of Finance, Chairman, Securities and Exchange Board of India, Chairman, Insurance Regulatory and Developmental Authority, and Chairman, Pension Fund Regulatory and Developmental Authority. It can also include the Chairman of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now let's look into the next practice question. If a particular plant species is placed under Schedule 6 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, what is the implication? A license is required to cultivate that plant. Such a plant cannot be cultivated under any circumstances. It is a genetically modified crop plant. Such a plant is invasive and harmful to the ecosystem. The answer to this is A, which means a license is required to cultivate that plant. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2020. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Defense Technology and Trade Initiative. What is this Defense Technology and Trade Initiative? As the very name denotes, this is a defense technology agreement between India and United States of America. How does this work? Let's take the example. India imports a lot of defense equipment. It can be from United States of America, it can be from Russia, it can be from France, it can be from Israel as well. So what is India doing? India is importing a lot of defense equipment, and as a result, the cost of these equipments have skyrocketed in the past few years. Especially with United States of America, we have been importing a lot of helicopters, we've been importing a lot of rifles, so on and so forth. What does India want? India wants to reduce these costs over a period of time. So what does it do? It enters into an agreement with United States of America. For what? For joint development of equipment. So basically, the main aim of this Defense Technology and Trade Initiative is to collaborate in the technology exchange, create new opportunities for co-production and co-development, where a project agreement will be initiated between India and United States of America. They'll collaborate or come up together to develop a core technology whereby over a period of time they know the technology, and at the same time the cost of these products also lower as well. So what would happen? Under this, joint working groups would be created for different sectors. It can be for the air component, it can be for the naval component, it can also be for the land component as well. So joint working groups will be created. These working groups will create new type of technologies, and ultimately they would agree upon a mutually considered parameter for the development of technology. So this DTTI is not a treaty or a law, but this is a flexible mechanism where the senior leaders from both the parties, that is from India and United States of America, want to speak to each other so that they can strengthen on the defense technology front. So this aims to strengthen the India's defense industrial base, explore new ideas of technological development, and also expand on United States of America and India's business front as well. In this article, it goes on to say that India and United States of America have signed a project for an air-launched unmanned air vehicle under the ambit of Defense Technology and Trade Initiative. This would be one of the agreement where both the countries will come together and they would build an air-launched unmanned air vehicle for technology cooperation. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.